Hi, everyone, and welcome to what will essentially be the last lecture. And it's not really a lecture, it's more just covering the exam template, which I've sent to you and you should have in front of you right now. If you notice on the course outline, week 12 is usually it's a day where students come in and pick up essays that they maybe didn't pick up earlier, or it could be getting the quiz back or what have you. And so there really won't be any need for that in this course because of the situation and everything else, right? So this is the final lecture. I'll still be sending you email, right? Basically, I'll have to let you know when the exam is and everything else, right? So I'll let you know about that. And there might be a couple of follow-up things as well, all right? But as I said, essentially, this is the last lecture that you will be receiving, all right? So here we go, your exam. Now, to begin with, the exam is mandatory, all right? And I don't want to get into too many administrative issues here, but you will be writing the exam, okay? And our section is A, B, and normally that would be important, but for the purposes of our course, we don't have to worry about that. In other words, sometimes students, there'd be a whole lot of different sections writing, say, in the gymnasium or wherever, right? But again, we don't have to worry about that. So here's a couple of things now I want to make very clear. When I find out the date of the exam, I will send an email, and I will eventually send you the exam as a file, right? So I'm not going to use Brightspace or anything like that. I'm going to just send it, just like the quiz. I'm going to send it to you. Then you'll convert to a Word document and send it back. Where will you send it? You will send it to myself if you're in my group. You will send it to the TA if you are in the TA's group. Okay, let's just be nice and clear about that. It's amazing. This course, the administration of the course has taken up more time than anything else. So please make sure you send it to the right place, all right? And then you will write it wherever you want. As long as you have a computer, you can write it. It doesn't matter. On the sheet, I say at home, but it doesn't matter. As long as you have a computer, you can write it anywhere. Now, here's the really interesting thing about our course. This is an open book exam. It always is. And so that doesn't change anything in relation to the circumstances at hand, all right? So you're allowed to use anything you want, and that's true even if you were writing at the university, okay? And so I'll give you a couple of hints on that right now. For the exam, there's a few things you want to make sure you have when, like you have at your fingertips, all right? One would be the works cited page that I gave you and is also listed at Brightspace. Okay, so that would be a handy thing to have. And you might also want to have a dictionary, or at least, access to a computer with a dictionary, what have you, right? Because there might be a couple of words that you'll see on the exam you may not be familiar with. And so those two things are usually the only ones. Normally when I do the course in person, because I've taught public speaking before, I actually talk about all the things you should think about: Kleenex, water, like all those things. But because of the way in which it's set up right now, we don't have to worry about stuff like that. Now, officially, the Faculty of Arts has told me that it will be a 24-hour exam. So what that means is, like, even though it's really only a 3-hour exam normally, you will be given 24 hours, okay, from the time I send it out till the time you send it back. Now, again, please don't email me about that. I'll let you know in plenty of time, right, when I want it back and whatever. And the fact is, I'll probably end up sending it out early anyway. In other words, I'll give you a bit of extra time, again, because of time zones, right? Like, I know that some of you are living halfway around the world right now. So don't worry about stuff like that. We'll be able to take care of all of that, no problem. Now, as I said, so the exam is mandatory, all right? And so now I'm just going to get into a couple of, just to explain basically what I'm looking for the final exam. I'm reading right now, literally off the template. So read the instructions carefully, okay, before you begin. And then the exam will be separated into two parts, all right? You have 24 hours to complete, as I said, and submit your answers as a Word document, all right? Okay, pretty straightforward. Now, and finally, yeah, you can use anything you want, all textual resources. Like as I said, I can't really stop you from using anything, right? So feel free just to use whatever you need. All right? Okay, here we go. Part 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do part one, and then I think I might take a tiny break just to get my thoughts together, because part two is really where you could make or break your final exam grade. All right. So let's talk just briefly about part one. Oh, also, sorry. Make sure when you write your exam, just do it single spaced. Okay, like let's just keep it nice and compact. So everything will be single spaced. Okay, all right. Times New Roman 12 as usual, right? So everything's single spaced. I don't think I had that laid out in the template. So again, single spaced. All right. So part one. Now notice what it says here. The goal in this section is to demonstrate critical reading, okay, paraphrasing, and summarizing skills. Well, so what am I paraphrasing? What am I summarizing? When I send you the exam will be sent in two files. You'll have the template that you're looking at right now, or that I'm going off of right now, okay? But then you'll also have an article, an essay. It'll be an essay you've never seen before. And I'm simply going to ask you some questions about the essay. So, no surprises there. And I think you could probably figure out what's the very first question that you're going to see on this exam. Well, okay, it's going to be worth 2%, and it's going to be, what is the thesis? So now let me be very clear. For some reason, students don't get this idea. When I say what is the thesis, I'm looking for one sentence. There is a sentence in the article, okay, that you haven't seen yet, right, that I'll send for the exam. I'm looking for one sentence. It's a specific sentence. So you're not don't give an answer of 4 or 5 different sentences, right? You're going to word for word, that's the thesis. Word for word from the article, boom. You will either get the 2% or you won't. Okay, so, and I don't know if I can be any clearer. So don't paraphrase for the first question. You're going to literally give me a sentence and say, that's the thesis. Okay, boom. Okay. Then we'll have a second question. And the second question, it's interesting. Now we want to think about, for the second question, we want to think about going back to the changing face of literacy. So go back, and if you want to do a bit of studying for this exam, okay, which I don't know if you really can for the most part, but if you're going to go back and do any studying at all, go back and take a look at the changing face of literacy, where I talked about, and now here's question number 2. Are you ready? How does the author go about making the argument? So that sounds kind of vague, doesn't it? How does the author go about making the argument? But what I mean by that is, all right, remember changing face of literacy. Reading, media, writing. Boom, boom, boom. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the sections of the argument. So that's what I'm looking for in the second question. Okay? All right, so what are the sections of the argument? So that's why I'm suggesting you might have to read the article a couple of times just to get a feel for how the author is working through the material. So, and again, that's exactly what you want to be thinking about every time you write an essay, right? You don't just give information, okay? A couple of you did that on the first and second papers. You don't just give information, you think about how you're going to take the reader through this process, and that's a word I keep using over and over again. Writing is a process, all right? And so that'll be the second question, all right? And then finally, the third question, okay, worth 5% of your overall grade. I'm going to ask you, what is the author's overall attitude towards the subject matter? And again, that kind of sounds vague, but if you read the article carefully, you'll see what I mean. All right, so what is the author's overall attitude towards the material? All right, so in that third one, you're paraphrasing, right? You're going to paraphrase basically what you just read. And myself and the TA, we have a rubric, like basically we're looking for certain things there, all right? And so you want to get to the heart of it, all right? So as I said, if you read it carefully, you'll see what I mean, right? The author's overall attitude. And so there's 10% of your final grade right there, right? So let's do it again. Thesis. How does the author get through the argument, right? Okay, sections. And then overall attitude. Okay, pretty straightforward. And so that's basically part one of the exam. Okay, as I said, and I'll send you information. As I get the information, as always, I'll send it to you. regarding dates and all of that. Now, part 2. This is where it gets a bit confusing. I don't know why, but every time I do the course, it gets a bit confusing. So I'm going to explain. I'll slow down and make sure we all understand. Now, in part 2, you're going to be asked to write an essay. What's the name of this course? Okay, Workshop in Essay Writing. So we're going to ask you to write an essay. Okay, so let's do this slowly. First, once the exam has been sent out, okay, even though you've got 24 hours to do it, you may not email myself or the TA regarding documentation, because that's part of the whole course, right? You have to figure those things out. I've shown you how to do it, but you have to figure it out. So I'm going to go through. Don't worry. Okay, we've still got lots of time left for today. Now, on the essay aspect of the exam, don't worry about having a first page, if you're doing APA, or having the proper MLA with a left hand. You should have figured that out by now, right? For your third essay, I mean, we're not even worried about that anymore because you know how to do that. All right. Also, don't worry about headers, right? I mean, how in the world? You could do it handwritten, but don't worry about stuff like that. We're looking more for the body of the essay, all right? And do you know how to put an essay together? So again, APA, cover page, and all of that, don't worry about it. When you write your essay, this is important, write it single-spaced. The first question people are going to ask, all right, how long should my essay be? Again, I would hope that by now you're not thinking that way. There's no answer to how long an essay should be. But when it comes to the purposes of this exam, I would suggest that your essay that you're going to write, 2.5 pages, okay, single-spaced, that should be fine, okay? 2.5 should be plenty. 2.5, 3 max. And don't worry, we're going to get into other things as well. And so, yeah, so 2.5 pages, single-spaced. Do everything single-spaced for the exam, all right? Just to save, paper or what have you, transactions. So, all right. So let's look at the instructions now. What exactly are we looking for? Okay, I'm going to give you 3 questions. The 3 questions are incredibly general. In other words, anyone could walk in off the street and write the exam, right? So we're not looking for anything specific. Please, when you get the exam, don't panic and email saying, well, what exactly? No, they're incredibly general questions. As a matter of fact, they're almost the same question over. Let me stop right now. The article that I'm going to send you, I'm going to give you the content of the article right now. It'll be on advertising. Okay? So, all of us, every one of us comes into advertising, we're confronted with advertising all the time. So it's the kind of thing where we'll all have opinions on it. So as I said, we're not looking for something specific that some magical thing you have to figure out. No. For the final exam, we're simply figuring out, do you know how to put an essay together? Okay, I know I'm repeating myself, but these are the questions we get in class, all right? So I want to be very clear on that. We're not looking for anything specific in terms of your answer, all right? So, as I said, they're so general. The questions are so general, right? So you can apply them any way you want, okay? All right, so I give you 3 questions. You're going to do 1. You're going to write 1 essay, okay? A well-crafted essay. Okay, how many paragraphs? I don't know why I even have on the template here. 6, 7, 5, whatever. All right. I hope you've figured that out by now. Right? It's impossible to say exactly how many paragraphs in your essay should be. Each of you write. You each write with your own style. Right? So again, there is no one answer to that. But I've got 6 or 7 paragraphs there. Now, what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to say something, then I'm going to take a tiny break just to make sure my thoughts are in order, all right? Because I'm going to read off the template. Your essay must make effective use of a minimum of 2 citations, okay, from the reading that accompanies the exam question sheet. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. Then I'm going to pause for literally 30 seconds just to make sure everything is in order and for you to understand what I'm looking for. Your essay must make effective use of a minimum of 2 citations from the reading. Now, remember what I said earlier on. The exam is going to have 2 files. Okay, it's going to have the sheet that you're looking at now, except it'll be more specific, obviously, right? And then it's going to have an article or an essay. you're going to pretend that that essay is now your research, and you're going to quote from it in your essay answer. So as I said, let me just break for 10 seconds, right? Because that's where people start to get really confused. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to come back. I'm going to do it again, right? Just give me 1 second, all right? I just want to do one thing. Okay, so let's go over that one more time. You've got 2 files, right? So you're going to open both files. You've got your exam sheet with the questions, the specific questions, right? And then you've got your article. So you're going to pretend now, like I said, that the article, that's your research. And by the way, don't go and do any research for this exam. Like that won't help you at all, all right? Even though I told you now it's on advertising, don't go out and do a whole lot of work on advertising or whatever, okay? You'll have everything you need. I'm going to give you everything you need. Okay, so I'm going to read the same thing again. All citations, okay? So you're going to quote twice. You're going to actually take information from the article and quote it in your essay. Okay? Got it? All right. And you're going to do that at least 2 times. The reason why I'm asking 2 times, if you do it once and you get lucky, right, then okay. But if you do it twice and you do it properly each time, then we know, okay, you know what you're doing. All right? All citations must be properly documented. I'm going off the notes now. Must be properly documented in terms of both in-text citations, okay, and reference or works cited at the end of your essay. Let's slow down. If you go back to the lecture on paragraphing, that's where I showed you how to integrate quotes. So the name that I kept using over and over again, if you remember, was Killeran. Remember? And I showed you in APA you do it this way, in MLA you do it this way, right? If you remember, Killeran, I don't want to confuse you now, but go back and look at paragraphing, okay? And it's there, as I said, that I show you the 2 different ways of doing it. There are others, obviously, but for the purposes of what we're doing, the majority of you will be using either APA or MLA. So there's another tip for you for the exam. Go back and look at the lecture on paragraphing. So now we've got the lecture on paragraphing. You got your works cited page, okay, that you should have in your notes somewhere, but if you don't, it's on Brightspace, okay, so go print that off. If you have any questions regarding APA, well then you can find that at where? What's the first thing I joked that I said this entire course? Woo, woo. So go to OWL, all right, OWL at Purdue, and that'll answer all the questions you need for APA, all right? Although I think I gave you most of what you need for both APA and MLA, all right? And so the only thing you'll have to figure out, sorry, not the only thing, but one of the things you'll have to figure out, if you're doing APA, you will have to check a couple of things on OWL because the sheet that I gave you was MLA. Right? If you remember for a book and then a collection and then a journal, right? Remember that one sheet that we were looking at? That was MLA. So if you're doing APA, then yes, you'll have to go. It's only a bit of tinkering that you have to do. It's not very complicated, but OWL will give you all the answers to that. Okay? And so let's go back again. So you're going to have your in-text citations. Remember, you have to quote twice from the essay, right? And then you should have a works cited or reference page at the end. Now, for the works cited or reference, again, because we're at the end of the course, don't worry about having a separate page, okay? Just go ahead. If you have room on your last page, let's just say your essay ended, with only 2 lines at the top of page 3 or whatever, right? Then go ahead and just do it. Just give a bit of a separation, a break, just to indicate you're aware that it should be on a separate page, okay? So those are the kind of things, we'd worry about that when it came to your final essay, right? You got to do it properly on your essay. On the exam, not worried about it, all right? We're at the point now where you either have figured these things out or you haven't, okay? So again, not too worried about it. All right, and so any style is fine as long as you're consistent. I don't recommend using Chicago for the final exam, right? But again, that's up to you. It's up to you. And so yeah, so the goal is to write a coherent, well-crafted essay. This is almost redundant, isn't it? Like the goal is to do what we've been doing all along. That's probably the best way of explaining the final exam, right? So you understand. You'll show that you understand the writing process. You understand how to integrate quotes and all of that. You have and so many other things as we'll see in just a second. All right. And so yeah, like I said, length. let me go back and do the whole exam for you for length. Your first page should probably cover almost everything for part one. Right? That's all you need. I mean, think about it. You've got one sentence for your first answer, then, a couple, maybe 3 sentences at the, don't even quote me on that, all right? Probably 1 page for your first, for part 1, as I said. Part 2, including your works cited, 3 pages. I mean, single-spaced. Everything is single-spaced, right? So that's probably, that'll probably be the best way of doing it. And again, don't email, I have 3.5 pages. Okay, fine, who cares, right? We're at the point now where you shouldn't even be asking questions like that. Oh, but if, let's just say on your exam, you have 7 pages. Well, then now you should be the one to figure out the problem there, not me. Why do you have 7 pages when I suggested you only needed 2.5 for your essay? You've got to figure out, this is something we've been talking about all along, you've got to figure out the parameters. Okay, the scope, the purpose and scope. Remember, that's a phrase I used briefly. But you basically you have to choose, right, the proper parameters, right, that suit the objective. So as I said, 2.5 pages. Okay, and then including your works cited, it'll be maybe 3 in total, right, for the essay part. But again, it might be shorter. Okay, whatever. So, how are we going to evaluate your essay? This is really important, okay? That's why I'm saving it until now, right? We're already almost 22 minutes into the lecture. So, let's think about this for a moment. The essay will be the grade that you get will be based on, obviously, your thesis statement. So, many of you are still struggling with the whole idea of taking a stand, okay? Like, don't talk about stuff. Take a stand and argue it through. Okay, don't explain. So, you'll have a thesis statement. Okay, you're going to make a case. Remember, lecture 3, make a case. Then, obviously, your argument. In other words, and look at all the words that I had there. Logic, development, all of that. Same stuff we've been working on, right? But one word that I want to point out there, organization. So, before you write this exam, okay, before you actually start writing, think about how you're going to go about it. Remember when we did the 15 steps, okay? Where was the introduction? It was step 12. Remember all the work that we put in, and some of you have been doing that, I can tell, right? And you've even emailed me saying, yes, this works way better, right? The methods I've been showing you. So think about that, right? Step 12 was the introduction, which means for your exam, do the same thing. You've got 24 hours, right? And probably more, right? I'm going to give you extra time. So think about it, plan it out. How am I going to take the reader through my essay? That's the way to think about an essay, right? How am I going to take the reader through this rather than simply blurting out a whole lot of information? So, all right? So we've got development, organization, right? Then of course, do you have a proper introduction? Do you have a strong conclusion? Right? And I've given you tips on that, right? We've talked a lot about that, so I'm not too worried about that, okay? I shouldn't say I'm not too worried about it. What I mean is I don't think I have to elaborate simply because I've shown you how to do that. Then, because you've got 24 hours and you've got a computer with spell check, which you should not rely on all the time. Remember, we talked about that, okay? Lecture 9. But we'll, grammar, punctuation, style, spelling, all of that, obviously, that will come into play now because you're given so much more time, right? So those things will be important. Okay, then finally, this is the point where at 23 minutes and, I'm waiting, 50 seconds. Here we go. How are we going to grade the essay portion of the exam? Okay, let's just say, okay, I'm pulling this out of the air now. Let's say you write a brilliant essay. I mean, it's brilliant, okay? Brilliant. And you get 18 out of 20, okay? I'm only throwing the number 18 out to show you something here. Actually, no. Let's say you get 17, okay? There's a reason why I changed my mind there, all right? Okay? Anyway, 17. So 17 out of 20, that's an A, okay? It's hovering between an A minus and an A. That's a darn good grade, okay? All right? Sorry for swearing there. Anyway, I'm joking. So you get 17 out of 20. That is a very strong grade for an essay. But you didn't do your in-text citation properly. You just lost a mark. Then we go to your works cited or reference page, and you didn't do that properly. You just lost another mark. So you started with 17. Your in-text citation was incorrect, -1. Your reference or works cited was incorrect, -2. You went from 17 to 15. You went from an A- to a B+. Okay? Actually, you went from an A- to a B, hovering on a B+. So, my advice, know how to document. Again, I'm not going to answer email questions about that. This is something, think about it. If you were in, say, an economics course, right, would your economics professor explain everything that you don't? No, then I've given you the notes. It's all there, okay? And keep watching this lecture, by the way, because I'm going to give you a hint at the end, all right? A very strong hint. So don't email me asking, how does this work or whatever. I've given you everything you need, right? Okay? So let's do that again. You got a 17 out of 20, but you didn't do the 2 aspects that we were looking for correctly. You just lost 2 points. Now, it's not huge in terms of your overall grade, okay? But it can make the difference, right? So know your documentation. Okay? Okay, I don't know how clear I can be on that. Now, in the final version, okay, of your essay, as with the entire exam, I'm almost at the end now of the template, all right? I'm going to take another 5 minutes. I might take a bit more just because of the very last thing we're going to talk about. So keep watching. The very last thing I'm going to talk about is important. So your essay should be written in Times New Roman 12, just like everything else we've been doing, okay, right? And there's the 3 questions there. I don't even know what they are off the top of my head. I mean, I could look them up on the computer, but they're, like I said, they're incredibly general. So, and just do 1, worth an overall percentage of 20, okay? Now, okay, I'm going to take about 3 or 4 minutes. I figured this lecture would go about at half an hour. Let's look at the very bottom of the exam template, okay? Let's do it together. The article is taken from, and then I tell you, I give you some information, okay? Now, if your works cited, okay, or reference looks like what I've given you here on this page, okay, listen carefully, then it is incorrect. So I'm going to give you the biggest hint I can. But again, I'm not going to answer any email. You have to figure this out. You've got that information at the bottom of your exam template, okay, or the exam itself. The exam will have all that information on it. Don't worry about writing all that down or anything like that, okay? So you've got information there. Then you also have information, okay, from the article. This is the biggest hint I can give, all right? Somehow, out of those 2 aspects, you will be able to correctly write a reference sheet or a works cited. That's all I'm going to say. Okay? So, there's your hint. So, I'm going to repeat. At the end of the exam, okay, you will be given this information. Reader's choice, okay, essays and stories, etc. Okay, I'll give you one more hint. Notice that Reader's Choice, Essays and Stories is italicized. That's a huge hint, right? If you've been following along. I'm sure some of you now just figured it out. Oh, okay, now I see. So there's your hint. So like I said, no email about documentation, right? I'm giving you, by the time you have the exam, you'll have everything you need to do it properly. So, let's go back then. Couple of quick notes. Make sure everything is single-spaced, right? Just to save, like in other words, we won't be putting comments on your exams like we normally would with essays if they were on time. You will not be receiving your exam, okay? We do not send the exams back. The exams go to the department. And that is true of every course, every faculty, all right? And so, for a final exam. And so, and especially in times like these, right? it would be very difficult for us to get together to talk about your exam anyway. So you simply have to trust us on that, and that's true regardless of whether we were going through what we're going through now, or in quote unquote normal times or what have you. So you do not receive your exam. Okay, that will not be sent back to you. I'm glad I remembered to say that, actually. So and I'm sure if you took courses in the fall or the winter, you're already aware of that. All right. And that's university policy almost at every university. I mean, it's here at the University of Ottawa. It's true at Carleton. I taught at one other university before. It's the same policy throughout. On the other hand, if you feel like you've been like treated unjustly or whatever, of course, then you can email. But please don't email saying, "Well, can I see my exam?" or whatever. I mean, I don't know how I would do that right now. And I think you can also tell that we put a lot of work into this course. So just trust us on that, okay? And other than that, I don't know if there's anything else we need to go over. You might want to go back and watch this lecture again, just because I have given some hints. You might want to take a look, or maybe you should have paused along the way. But other than that, as I said, it's been like it's strange in a way. It's been a long course in some ways, right? But it's been very short in others. I mean, it flew by, didn't it? But it did feel like a lot of work, simply because everything was so condensed, right? And so the last couple of things then, as I said, when I get the information on the exam, you might even have it by now, right? But officially, I have not been given anything just yet, all right? So when I know exactly like when the exam is and everything else, I'll certainly send out the information to you. And don't worry though, like I said, I'll probably send the exam out early anyway. All right. So all right. So other than that, like I said, it was a challenge to do this course, to tell you the truth, but it was also very enjoyable. Right. It keeps the juices going, if you know what I mean. And so good luck with the exam. And good luck with all of your academic endeavors as you move through university life. All right. So anyway, I hope now you can rest and have at least a bit of a break for the summer. And other than that, maybe I'll see you, in the hallways when things get back to normal. All right. Thanks very much. All right. Take care.